السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم ثم أما بعد. Brothers and sisters in Islam, welcome back to our ongoing series on the forgotten companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Today, inshallah, we're going to begin discussing the story of Amr ibn Al-Jamuh. radiallahu anh. Amr radiallahu anh was one of the leading men of Yathrib in the time of Jahiliyyah. And Yathrib, of course, was Medina before Islam came to it. So he was actually the chief of his tribe, and he was a well-respected and beloved man in Yathrib. And he was well known for his valiant character. And he had three children and a wife. Her name was Hind. And a high status in society. So this was the life of Amr radiallahu anh before the coming of Islam to Yathrib. Now, this life that he had was disrupted when Mus'ab ibn Umayr radiallahu anh arrived from Mecca in Yathrib. And of course, he was the very first missionary, we might say, who was sent out from Mecca to Yathrib to give da'wah, to proselytize the message of Islam. And Amr he watched in distress as multitudes of people entered Islam. It was spreading like wildfire around Yathrib. And this distressed him. And he told his wife, do not let any of our children talk to this man. And he was referring to, of course, Mus'ab ibn Umayr. He said, do not let any of our children talk to this man, lest they be corrupted, right? And his wife, Hind, she said, of course, but one of your sons has already spoken with him. Are you interested in hearing what he has to say about him? And Amr, the one who was immediately alarmed, he said, has he already abandoned the religion of his forefathers? And his wife, she said, no, he was just interested. He only attended a few sessions, is all. And she said this because she felt bad for the man. The truth was, his son had indeed converted to Islam, and not just his son, his other two sons as well, and his wife. They had all entered Islam, but without his knowledge. Here he was still thinking that he had to protect his family from the sweet talk, from the corruption of Mus'ab ibn Umayr. So Amr had already lost his family to Islam. He just didn't know yet. And every day, after he woke and before he slept, he would pray to an idol that he had in his house. This idol was called Manaf. He would pray to this idol and he would treat it with the utmost care. He would actually bathe it with cologne and perfume. He would sacrifice food to it. And so he gave it 5-star premium care. And it had a special place in his house. And in fact, this idol was actually one of the privileges that the chieftains in Yathrib had. The people who were the chiefs of the tribes who had this high status in society, they were privileged with this personal idol that they kept in their home. So this was Amr personal idol. This was his personal idol. And he was worshiping to it, and he was praying to it and asking that it protect his family from Mus'ab ibn Umayr and from this new religion that was spreading over the land. Now, eventually, he actually did ask his son, the one who he knew had spoken with Mus'ab ibn Umayr, he asked him to come to him and to tell him some of what he had heard from Mus'ab. And so his son came to him and he recited Surah Al-Fatiha. And Amr, he listened very carefully. And when his son was done reciting the surah, he said, wow, such beautiful words. Is everything that this man says like this? And his son, when he saw that his father was interested, became very excited. He said, yes, it is all like this. Do you want to hear more? Would you like to learn more? Do you want to come and meet him? And Amr, he hesitated. and he said, "Let me consult. Let me consult Manef. Let me consult my idol and see what my idol thinks." And his son, in an exasperated tone, he said, "And what indeed can Manef think, father? It is an idol. It can neither think nor speak." And Amr, of course, was angered when he heard this. He said, "I said I'm not going to do anything until I consult my idol." And he stalked away, and he returned to his idol. Now, in these days, it was customary that there would be an old woman who would stand behind a veil behind the idol when the idol was addressed, and this old woman would speak on behalf of the idol. Basically, they believed that the idol would inspire uh, this old woman to speak. So it would speak through this human agent. This is how they thought they could commune with the idols. Because, of course, this idol was made of wood. It was not going to literally speak. So they thought it somehow manifested itself through other human beings and spoke through them. And so he went to his idol, Amr Radiallahu, and he addressed it. He said, and he told it, as I know, that this man, and he's referring here to Mus'ab ibn Umayr Radiallahu, he said, this man was sent as a propagandist from Mecca to convert us away from the religion of our forefathers. What do you think I should do? And Banaf, of course, said nothing. And so Amr said, perhaps I've angered you. I'll come and ask you tomorrow. And he left the idol in its place. Now that night, Amr's children decided they had to take matters into their own hands. That their father was clearly not going to change his ways at this point. And I should mention here that at this point, Amr was around 60 years old. So he'd already lived his life. He was an old man and he was set in his ways. Uh, this is what he knew, and he wasn't going to let this go so easily. And so his sons thought they should nudge him along. And so they went to the special room where he kept the idol. They took the idol from its spot, they took it outside, and they threw it into a pit. And then they returned silently to their home. And of course, the next day, Amr wakes up. He goes to consult Manaf, and what does he find? He finds that the idol is gone. And so he flew into a fit of rage. He said, "What have you done to our God? Who did this?" And of course, no one answered. And he swore to punish severely the culprit, the perpetrator of this crime. And he searched, and eventually he found Menef upturned on its head in the pit. And so he picked it up, he washed it, he perfumed it, and he restored it to its place. And he asked Menef, "Who did this to you?" And of course, Menef did not answer. And that night, the same thing happened. His children went to where the idol was, they took it and they chucked it into the pit. And the next day, he woke up and he saw the idol was gone. He once again fell into a fit of rage and he searched for it again until eventually he found it and perfumed it and restored it to its place. And so this happened for several nights in a row. And finally, Amr, he said, "Oh Manaf, I don't know who's doing this to you, but here, take this sword to defend yourself." And he took a sword and he put it around, he attached it to a thing and he put it around its neck and he said, "Defend yourself with this sword." Now, that night, what happened? Well, nothing changed, of course. It was still an idol, only now it had a sword. And so when Amr's children came and they found that there was a sword hanging onto the idol, what did they do? Of course, they just took the sword, threw it away, took the idol, threw it into the pit, and that was that. And the next day, when Amr went to the pit and he found the idol overturned on its head, it finally dawned on him that truly this was not something worthy of worship. It was a piece of wood. That's all it was. There was nothing more to it than that. Here it was humiliated over and over and over again. And so finally, at that moment, he decided he turned to his son and he asked him to take him to Mus'ab ibn Umayr, and he took him there, and he, after listening some more, converted to Islam. And I think we can imagine that after that, Manaf was not retrieved from the pit into which it had been thrown. And thus, Amr, despite his old age, became a Muslim at the age of 60 years old. This chief, this major chief in Yathrib, entered Islam. And what did he do next? Well, that's what we'll discuss next time, inshallah. جزاك الله خيرا والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.